The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
Global sanctions against the Russian invasion into Ukraine have prompted the international community to block Russian banks from the SWIFT messaging network. Joining us now to discuss is Liat Shetret, Director of Regulatory Affairs and Compliance Policy at Solidus Labs, a market surveillance and risk monitoring hub. Hello there, Liat. Thanks for joining us. So what are the implications of removing Russian banks from SWIFT, Liat? Will they turn to crypto? Is there any evidence of that?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. So as you can imagine with crypto, there's no real crystal ball as to what might happen with regards to Russia being removed from SWIFT. There has been a lot of discussion around this. Crypto and infrastructure is not yet as mature as we'd like it to be in order for it to take on the entirety of the Russian economy and the bulk of the Russian economy. There are also opportunities for crypto to take over some specific areas with regards to potential for a CBDC direct engagement between what we've seen as the digital ruble and the digital yuan. I would limit the conversation around this particular issue because we haven't quite seen the digital ruble, the central bank digital currency of Russia, be effective outside of the country. The digital yuan has been also very limited within China and very specifically outside particular corridors within China. So this conversation around, is the central bank digital currency going to be the opportunity for Russia to bypass sanctions is not quite there. I think a big issue to remember is that geopolitically, crypto is now center stage in this conversation. This has not been the case before. We really view it as a test for crypto that's really going to affect future growth. It's a dramatic testing moment. We see that governments now have much more in their toolbox that they can do with crypto. And we're really here to say, crypto companies, crypto businesses, we don't want to be misused for sanctions avoidance. There is no reason for the crypto community to be utilized to circumvent sanctions. And governments now have the tools to make sure that doesn't happen.
So, Liat, let's step back for a second and just kind of talk about what's the near-term issues, and that is we have a few banks that are being kicked off of SWIFT. What does that mean in general? What does that mean for Russian banking, and what does it mean also for crypto? This is over the next several weeks. What do we expect here in terms of how people are going to potentially get around some of these sanctions if they can, or how they'll use crypto in this very short term?
Yeah. So what we're already seeing is that there's discussion around preparation for enhanced cyber attacks, an attempt for Russia to fundraise additional funds via ransomware. There is ongoing concern about beefing up cybersecurity around different systems in order to make sure that should Russia decide that there's a need to fundraise because they're unable to obtain the kind of funding that they need, that they would maybe tap into ransomware networks in order to facilitate for that. So I think there's a lot of pressure at the moment on cybersecurity in order to achieve that. We are seeing that from the Ukrainian perspective, there has been a significant usage of people kind of moving their own funds onto crypto wallets in order to make sure that they have opportunities to flee with money, to utilize money, to stay and spend money in different ways in order to protect their own finances.
So according to the Wall Street Journal, Washington is weighing the possibility of imposing further sanctions against Russia by targeting cryptocurrencies. How would that even work if possible?
So we've been following this very closely, as you can imagine. There are a lot of opportunities outside of Russia and Ukraine to impose sanctions against Russian oligarchs against specific targets. And what I'd like to really emphasize here is that there is a standing partnership with crypto businesses that would be willing and able to do that. So along with others, we've created the Crypto Market Integrity Coalition. These are crypto exchanges and crypto businesses who really take a stand to say that their crypto exchanges will not be misused for cashing out. So this is really the pressure point, needing to cash out funding that's being used or being mobilized between crypto exchanges that need to be then converted into cash back in order to be utilized. And what crypto exchanges are actively doing is they're monitoring their transactions. They're seeing where the money has been, where the money is going, trying to assess and create an evidence trail for potential interactions and illicit transaction points that they might have seen or be seeing with maybe specific Russian targets or Russian dark markets, Hydra, for example. So we're trying to trace these and then coming to a point of not allowing those particular transactions to be cashed out. So those can then be frozen. They can be put in escrow. They can be held until further action is assessed. There's a robust compliance function that many crypto businesses are operating on and high alert using blockchain tracing, market surveillance. There's a variety of tools, and we're not flying blind. And I think this is very critical to think about the differences between other conflicts, where at the moment, crypto businesses are almost partners to governments, eyes and ears on the ground, able to secure the infrastructure to make sure that there's no leakage. And if there are, they're traceable. And I think this is a very big difference from what we've seen in the past when it comes to the misuse of potential crypto for sanctions evasions.
Yeah, Liat, I was going to ask, how are we seeing crypto used? As you mentioned, this is kind of a different conflict than we've seen in the past. And one of the things we've seen, for instance, is, potentially, this use of crypto to fund aspects of this war. What are we seeing exactly in that regards on either side? What's of concern to you?
Yeah, it's been absolutely compelling, devastating, the whole wide gamut of emotions to see what's happening, but also a lot of really important watershed moments for crypto. We're seeing that there's on the Ukrainian side a surge of donors coming in to fund UkraineDAO, which is essentially a centralized pot of money that goes to support Ukrainian aims and Ukrainian goals and objectives. This is something new, bringing in crypto actors, which is a non-state individuals to weigh in, to crowdfund warfare. This is a new form of geopolitical complexities that we just haven't seen before. We've always talked about sort of the social network kind of interference in elections and things like this, but this is financing, and financing comes with a lot of consequences and opportunities. At the same time that we've been seeing the potential for choke points for Russia, we're seeing the benefits that this is allowing Ukraine in terms of the leeway. We also think that this is helping morale. When you see the amounts of funding and support that's coming in to the country, there's an element of unity that comes where, crypto has a lot of new money, new financiers that have ideological beliefs, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And those kind of initiatives are quite big. And, we've seen the likes of tech giants coming in to support internet, Elon Musk's Starlink connection. So there's a lot of activity ongoing with tech, with crypto. And we're really starting to see that more and more crypto businesses are also reviewing their sanctions regime and saying, okay, here we see that there might be a potential for weakness. How do we make this more robust? How do we avoid access to darknet shopping? How do we avoid these loopholes? And governments are partnering up with private sector entities to really achieve these goals, which is a newfound public partnership warfare arrangements that we just haven't seen before.
One question I do have, though, with all of that is you do have this public funding of warfare, and as you were describing. However, it could also turn into something pretty scary, potentially, correct? I mean, like what kind of precedence does this set? And how could it potentially turn really ugly in the future? Do you see that as a threat at all?
It could turn ugly. It could be a threat. I'm opting to see it as an opportunity for governments to really step into the light on crypto. Governments at this point in time really have no choice but to wrap their minds around crypto, to have clear policies, clear enforcement capabilities. There's really no opportunities for government at this point in time, seeing the scale of the crypto function that it's playing and what it's doing between Ukraine and Russia. There's simply no way for governments to bury their head in the sand. And we really see that this is an impetus for governments who have been shying away from it, who've been avoiding it, to really, really reckon with what crypto means to their financial industries, to the global cross-border functions, particularly the U.S. as a global financial leader. We continue to see this as an opportunity. And I think that, industry is ready to work with governments to make sure that policies are crisp and clear and compliant, and really achieving the goals of just a financial integrity, a global financial integrity system that really makes no space for sanctions, no space for illicit finance. And I think we're all working towards the same goal. And this really sets precedented opportunity to do that, unfortunately at a very high cost for Ukraine, at a very high cost for the region. But this is really a tremendous, unprecedented moment that we're seeing right now for crypto.
Liat, I want to bring your attention to the official Twitter account of Ukraine. They've been tweeting, "Stand with the people of Ukraine," now accepting cryptocurrency donations, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT, along with the addresses. Apparently, this has been confirmed by sources verified by Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin and Ukraine's former ambassador to Austria. So, if Ukraine can accept donations, do we have any sense of, where these funds may be going? And if they can ask for donations, assuming Russia can as well, and could that limit sanctions, the effect that they have?
Yeah, so if you notice here, what's unique with the Ukraine ask is that they're asking funding in Bitcoin and ETH. And that means that they are open for tracing. Bitcoin and ETH are two specific currencies that are on the open ledger. It means that anybody can trace it, can view it, can see where these particular Bitcoins, these particular ETHs have been and when they're going and where they're going. And that makes life easier because you can see how the funds will be used. You can see where they're going, where they're going to be cashed out. And there's a function of traceability. I think the concern sometimes comes when the requests are being made towards privacy coins, which are not traceable. And then you sort of wonder, well, where is this being used? And so this is a clear, transparent approach. I'm very comfortable that it's being asked in BTC and ETH because, again, there's an opportunity to trace the funds and see how they're being used. And it's up to really the Ukrainian government to decide how to do that. It does present, future concerns. We've seen this before around scams. We've seen this with the Twitter hack when there was, multiple leaders, celebrities, Twitter accounts that were replaced with "please donate Bitcoin here," and that was a clear scam. So I think one of the things that I'm watching very closely is opportunists and criminals who will pop up inevitably to try and collate donations, to try and receive contributions, and then misuse those funds and really essentially steal money from those who really have different and good intentions and contributing to an ideological statement that they believe in.